Hi, my name's John. Welcome to my channel EV Intuition, where I help you understand about electric vehicles. I give you the good and the bad, the pro and the con. In today's video, I'm going to continue a series of videos that I've been doing on the advantages of owning an electric vehicle. Today's video talks about the low amount of maintenance electric vehicles require as compared to an internal combustion engine or a gas vehicle. So let's get into it. Now, in talking about maintenance with electric vehicles, one of the key things you need to know is that electric vehicles are fundamentally different than internal combustion engines and gas vehicles in the sense that they are much simpler. They have much fewer parts, fluids that need to be maintained. And in fact, most electric vehicles have 20 or less moving parts. Whereas a gas vehicle with the internal combustion engine has hundreds of moving parts. That fact alone, you can understand that over time, the electric vehicle has less components that could fail as compared to a gas vehicle. Just to further that point, I want to show you here a picture of the opening the hood of two vehicles, one a electric vehicle and the other a gas vehicle, just for comparisons to show you the difference in complexity or to maybe exaggerate it, for example. First picture I'm showing you here is the front hood opened for a performance gas vehicle. And you can see the number of components and hoses and parts all scattered through that front engine component area. So that's typically what you see in most gas vehicles, is that a lot of these components are packed in tightly. They give you access to it, but it makes for a sometimes appalling or overwhelming look into that area. The second image is of an electric vehicle, and this picture is one of the Ford F-150 Lightning, which has one of the biggest, what they refer to as a frunk or front trunk, and it's basically just space. And the wonderful thing about that, you open the hood of an electric vehicle like the Ford F-150 or my Tesla, and very often you find an area where you can store things, and not an area full of components and hoses and pulleys. So that's just another wonderful thing about an electric vehicle from a maintenance point of view. You don't get overwhelmed with the amount of components in it. The other thing that's the advantage of electric vehicles is the use of software updates. Software updates are used to fix problems, to make enhancements, or to add features to vehicles. And electric vehicle manufacturers take good use of that. For example, I've owned a couple electric vehicles now, and they've had a couple recalls on them. And the nice part about some of the software updates is that the software updates can handle a update that manages or repairs the recall. And what this does is save you a lot of time and effort scheduling an appointment with the dealership and taking your car in to have that update done. So software updates are just a wonderful thing that simplify the maintenance of electric vehicles as compared to gas vehicles. Okay, next I want to show you a list of the more common components of a vehicle that require maintenance. And we're going to take a comparison between those in an electric vehicle or those in a gas vehicle. And some of them don't exist. So some of them you don't have to maintain. So let's begin with probably the most common maintenance that most people have with an and that is oil changes. Back in the day, oil changes were pushed pretty heavily, and the oils used back then would only last, or for, they would say, 3 months or 3,000 miles, so they wanted you to change it 4 times a year. Now with the synthetic oils, that has become less of a maintenance issue with gas vehicles, but it's still an issue. Typically, most people with synthetic oils do an oil change or an oil and typically a filter change, also oil filter change, once a year, sometimes twice a year, depending on how much mileage they put on their vehicle. But so you're always making oil changes and oil filter changes on a vehicle every year with a gas vehicle. The thing about an electric vehicle is it doesn't use oil and doesn't have the oil filter. So that's something that you don't even have to worry about. Obviously, another component that needs attention is the wiper blades, and both vehicles, electric and gas, have wiper blades. There's no difference there. The next thing is the windshield washer fluid. Now I live in upstate New York, and we're certainly, when we get into rainy or snowy weather, you're using your windshield quite a bit, and they put salt on the road and your windshield gets very dirty. So using windshield washer is very common for both electric vehicles and gas vehicles. So there's no difference there. When it comes to air filters, there is a difference. The gas vehicle has an engine air filter, which the electric vehicle does not. But they both have cabin air filters, which kind of condition or filter the air going into your vehicle. And that takes place obviously in both vehicles. The next category I have here is tire rotation and replacement. And once again, here's another area where gas vehicles and electric vehicles are identical. There's nothing different from the fact that tires will wear and tires will need to be rotated to even the wear, and you'll eventually have to replace those. The next area I say is battery replacement. Now, a lot of people think, well, I hope I don't have to replace the battery in electric vehicles. Actually, there's 2 types of batteries in an electric vehicle. There's one called the high voltage battery, which is the big one that runs your electric drivetrain, and you don't have to replace that. But the other one is the 12-volt battery, which both vehicles have to run certain accessories within the vehicle. So both of those will be required to be changed after a period of time. The next area that I have listed here is the brake work. Now, both vehicles have brakes, but the one advantage of an electric vehicle is that it uses regenerative braking very often, which means it's not using the brake pads, taking some of the energy in that motor and pushing it back into the battery. So it does 2 things: gives you energy back and slows your vehicle down, and hence you don't use your brake pads. So, but it also does have brake pads for those times where you have to stop quickly, and so eventually brake pads on an electric vehicle will need to be replaced, just as in a gas vehicle. Now, the difference is how often you have to do that. Due to regenerative braking, that's going to save your brake pads. And it's been reported, I've seen a report out of Kelley Blue Book, that some electric vehicles don't have to have their brake pads replaced for 100,000 miles. Whereas for gas vehicles, typically the average amount of mileage, and that varies depending on how you use your brakes, is around 40,000. So there's a significant savings in brake pads on an electric vehicle compared to a gas vehicle, even though you still have to replace them. The next category I have is antifreeze and coolant replenishment. You know, the coolant system for an engine is a key important part of that vehicle. In an electric vehicle, there is a coolant there to manage the temperature of the battery. So that's also there. But the key thing about the electric vehicles is most often that coolant never has to be maintained for the life of the vehicle. Unless something goes wrong, it's not something you have to worry about or replenish like you have to on occasion with a gas vehicle. The next area is power steering fluid. Now, most gas vehicles have a hydraulic system for giving you power steering. Now, there is a move today to move towards more electronic or electric power steering, but still many cars still have the hydraulic thing, which requires a reservoir for a power steering fluid. Electric vehicles handle power steering through use of a motor, which is referred to as electric power steering, and don't have that reservoir there. The other area is brake fluid. Both systems, gas and electric vehicles, have used brake fluid to help brake the car, slow the car down. So they're both required there to manage and maintain. Transmission fluid, we've talked in previous video about how an electric vehicle does not have any, as this is a single gear, so it doesn't have transmissions like gas vehicles do, and so it doesn't have that fluid. The next areas are belts and hoses. There's various belts in a gas vehicle that have to be checked on occasion and replaced after so many thousand miles. You don't see that in an electric vehicle. There's a lot of hoses in a gas vehicle. Those also have to be checked and maintained. There are a few hoses in electric vehicles. Very often they're hidden from the driver, but there are some hoses there, but certainly a lot less and less to be maintained. Gas vehicles have the spark plugs, which on occasion need to be replaced. Most vehicles, those last a good long time, maybe up to 100,000 miles or more. But in a gas vehicle, in an electric vehicle, you don't have any spark plugs, so you don't even have to worry about that. The next thing is the exhaust system, which includes the muffler and the exhaust pipes. You won't find that on an electric vehicle, so you don't even have to worry about that, whereas in a gas vehicle, you do. Then I have lights and exterior and interior lights. Both of them have it. Both will have to be replaced at certain times when certain bulbs or lights fail. There's no real difference there. And the final area that I had picked out of the maintenance areas on a vehicle is a fuel filter, which, as you know, an electric vehicle does not use fuel, so it does not have that, and you won't have to worry about that. So I've just reviewed a common list of maintenance items that all auto vehicle owners have to worry about, and compared the electric vehicle side to the gas vehicle side. Well, what's the bottom line? The bottom line is electric vehicles are going to save you time and money. And there's been some surveys that have shown that you can save as much as 70% of the total maintenance costs that you typically do on gas vehicles when you own an electric vehicle. And that savings over the life of the vehicle translates into thousands of dollars. Now, you can also talk about reliability. There's been some conflicting reports recently about reliability of electric vehicles, some saying it's better, some saying it's worse than gas vehicles. The main theme of the problems with electric vehicles and reliability is that they've been new vehicles, and some new vehicles, just like new gas vehicles, sometimes have some issues in their first model year, and that causes some some problems from a reliability point of view. But overall, the bottom line with reliability is there's less moving parts, total parts, fluids, less things that can go wrong. So in the end, overall, over the life of the vehicle, reliability of electric vehicles should be much better. So I hope you enjoyed this video talking about the maintenance of an electric vehicle as compared to a gas vehicle. If you like my content, please hit the like button below. Please subscribe for future videos. I continue my series of the advantages of electric vehicles, and I'll be also doing some disadvantages of owning electric vehicles in the near future also. So thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.